This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
All right. We're back. Purdue episode, the Solo Dolo edition, episode 15 going on here. John is out in Milwaukee with his buddies for his birthday, so a happy 24th to you, John. Enjoy your weekend, and we're going to give this a shot, the Solo Dolo edition with me, one of the co-hosts, Austin. So we'll kick things off with Purdue basketball. Looking at obviously a tough loss to Maryland, where Purdue really could have. That was one of the toughest remaining games on their schedule, and it was not pretty. It was kind of close, ugly. The first half looked okay, and then obviously we got kind of blown out towards the end with nothing falling for us. So Penn State coming into town, and we got to remember Penn State beat Michigan at home, which is a tough thing to do, and they took Purdue into overtime in their last meeting over at Penn State. So definitely a team that is kind of trying to find their rhythm here, and they certainly were giving Purdue everything they could handle. The first half was pretty close. I believe it was a 2-point lead for Purdue, so it was nothing. A 3-point lead for Purdue. Nothing easy for them, and I think really just everything started clicking offensively for Purdue. Matt Harms had a really, really good game. Travion Williams, I believe, was sick, so he saw 2 minutes. That was it. Probably just give Harms a breather when he had 4 fouls, but 5 of 7, 1 3-pointer, 18 points for Matt Harms, which you love to see. Carson Edwards had himself a good game, 6 of 11, 50% from 3, 21 points, leading all scorers there, and really able to keep Lamar Stevens in check. He gave Purdue fits in the first game, and then he really took over against Michigan in that upset win. So he was limited, but he had 18 points, leading all Penn State scorers by 1.5 miles. So I think really a good win for Purdue, despite it being Penn State. I understand they're towards the bottom of the Big Ten, and I still think, after the Maryland loss, you really, they were tested early. They didn't, they stayed the course, and they continued to do what Purdue does and kind of just grind out the win. And they were able to pull away late with a 12-point victory against Penn State. So kind of continuing to keep pace with the two Michigan schools with a share. I think at that point we were a half game back from Michigan and Michigan State. So, we were just a little behind in games played, but still on pace with the Big Ten, regular season title in mind. So, really for Purdue, a good win to stay in the race. Obviously, everyone's going to talk about Purdue having the easiest schedule down the stretch, but you still got to take care of business. You always get nervous, in my opinion, when you hear, oh, hey, we've got the easiest schedule, so we're going to go ahead and, chalk this up. Purdue is going to, finish strong. And, almost didn't, really kind of going into the Indiana game. And I know I'm stomping on the gas pedal here. Without John, I don't have anyone to babble with. So it's almost a laser-focused episode for me, and completely, something different, because I gotta keep going. I got to keep the content going. So, but like I was saying, Purdue's got to take care of business, and boy, what a ugly slugfest that was down in Bloomington on Tuesday. Purdue came out on top 48-46. It was all over the place. Matt Harms, who was, I think all college crowds going to pick on somebody. There was the FU Harms coming from the IU fans. He got in a couple scuffles. He got fouled. Or he picked up some fouls, rather, and got teed up a couple times, I believe, too. So, the crowd was on his case. He plays with a lot of energy. We know that. We see that a lot. Obviously, on the road against your big rival, the the student section is going to try and go ahead and, just get in your head a little bit. And I think Matt Harms did a pretty good job of not letting that happen, continuing to play his game as much as he could, really limited with four fouls. Travion Williams, I think, still kind of recovering from his sickness. He only had 5 points. I think struggled a little bit in the post against Juwan Morgan when they did go down there to him. So Matt Harms saw the bulk of it, and rebounding was a really big issue. And obviously at 7'3", Matt Harms is really good at, on the glass. So he tipped in the winning bucket with about 3 seconds left, and Juwan Morgan missed the three to win the game for Indiana. So Indiana sinks to 500, losing 11 of their last 12 games. Purdue basically survives, winning their game, and then that game catapulted us into a tie with a share of the Big Ten title with Michigan and Michigan State, who, in fact, are going to be playing this Sunday. So really, it's going to help Purdue a lot. You're hoping for a split, in my opinion. So they both take another loss, and then Purdue just has to win out, which is not easy. Still tough, some tough road games on there, but that's what you want. I think they play tomorrow, Sunday. In 2 days. Today's Friday. I've been all over the place here. Really, in this Purdue IU game, though, I call it ugly because there was not a lot of offense going. The defenses for both sides are doing pretty well. Everyone was slumping. Ryan Klein, who was scoreless in the first half, actually led all Purdue scores with 11. Carson Edwards was 4 for 24, 0 for 10 from 3. I mean, he couldn't buy a basket to save his life. Rimmed out a dunk, right off the front of the rim. Everything just coming in and out. He just could not catch a break. But, he played hard, and the entire Purdue team played hard. I think I heard Coach Painter in one of the timeouts say, hey, it's a mentally tough game. It's going to wear on you. And we're proven to be more mentally tough than this team. We just got to grind this out. We got to keep going. And that was apparent. IU took a lead late, and Purdue was able to kind of bounce back from that with some big shots from Klein, hit a three. Carson Edwards was able to make a good drive to, I believe, tie the game. And really the Purdue defense was just so overwhelming when they weren't fouling. Romeo Langford, the top 5 pick in the lottery draft, or at least a top 10, according to everyone and their mother in the NBA side. 14 points, was only 2 of 6 shooting. One of 3 from the 3-point line. He had a lot of free throws, so a lot of points coming from the stripe. Nojel Eastern got aggressive on him a couple times, put him on the line. And, he's so athletic, driving to the hoop, he was able to, draw some contact, get some fouls. But, again, really good job by Purdue, really limiting, no double-digit scores. Juwan Morgan was 1 point short of a double-double, but he was 3 for 14, had 11 rebounds. But, everyone else just really kind of struggling on the IU side. And, again, that was just kind of apparent at the defense of the entire game, which again, 48-46 is a pretty low scoring game. Not as low scoring as the NC State game. I think it was Virginia Tech or whoever, where that was just really ugly. But to me, these kinds of wins for Purdue, good teams find a way to win. They're going to find themselves a way to grit out and grind out wins against tough teams. And IU, despite their record, is a tough team. We all know that they went to Michigan State and beat, at the time, the number 6 Spartans at home. And I think it was senior night too. So they can play. And I just don't know, they had the same energy as that Michigan State game, obviously in this one, but lacking it in all the other games. So, you just really don't know what you're going to get with this team. But obviously when your rival comes into town and they've gotten the better of you more often than not, you're going to come out with energy. You're going to try and, ruin Purdue's chances to continue to compete for the Big Ten title. And I mean, it was pretty close. It was a very gritty game. So I think these games are a great test for teams like Purdue. Your top guy is having a horrible night. Your secondary scorer is having a horrible first half, but is able to bounce back. Matt Harms is getting jeered at all game, but was able to tip in the game-winning bucket. I mean, just an all-around really good group effort from this team, and a really mentally tough win against your big rival. So, just definitely continuing. I think we're a half game back again because Michigan and Michigan State recently played. But outlook, our next game is tomorrow against Nebraska, and that's on the road. Now, Nebraska played us really tough in the first game in Mackey in the first half, and I think any road game in the Big Ten is dangerous. So, again, we talk about Purdue having the easiest path, the easiest schedule. I think everyone is 500 or under in the Big Ten remaining on Purdue's schedule, but still, you just got to be wary about that. So we're going to Nebraska next Saturday, and then the following week, Illinois comes to town, who I'm confident in Mackey Arena. We're undefeated there. We've able to beat a lot of good teams there, so I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, Illinois beat Michigan State at home, so they're very talented. I think, I don't know if we'll ever see a resurgence of Illinois basketball since I think it was, the 2000s or whatever when Bruce Weber was there and had Darren Williams, and obviously that game against Arizona coming back from a massive deficit. But Illinois is kind of fallen off the map in the Big Ten. I think they've had some coaching problems as far as just not being able to retain one and not getting good ones. They used to have a pipeline in Chicago, and I don't know if it's as strong as it used to be. So I'm going to chalk up the Illinois game as a win for Purdue. And then looking ahead in March, you have Ohio State coming to town, who is currently 17-9. They're a tough team. You went into Columbus and took a game. Again, I'm really confident about Purdue at home. So, Ohio State has recently lost to Illinois and Michigan State. And then Purdue, obviously, Maryland is their last one. So a tough team coming in. They've been a little up and down in the Big Ten, but you definitely don't want to sleep on them. They're going to come in hungry. They have a chance probably if they continue to kind of run the table for themselves. Getting into the tournament, Purdue is a signature win, especially if you can do it at Mackey Arena, where they're currently undefeated. So, look out for that game. I still think Purdue is going to take that one at home, and that's the final game at Mackey Arena. So really hoping for a strong game for Purdue there, because you're going to have to build on that. You're going to Minnesota. You're going to the barn. Minnesota had a 13-point lead against Purdue at Mackey Arena, I think with like 6 minutes left, and we were able to go on a 22-2 run, I believe, and end up winning that game by 13. But, Minnesota, another team that probably has a chance to go to the tournament if they can beat Purdue. Purdue is a great team to have on your resume with a win against. So going to the barn is something that is going to be a challenge. I think this team needs to be ready for a fight against Minnesota. It's not easy. Again, another road game, not easy to do. And then the final game, we wrap up at Northwestern. I think Northwestern's played really tough against teams. And again, a road game in the Big Ten is a tough test. I just don't know talent-wise with Northwestern what they're going to be able to do. I think they've had some really close games against top teams in the Big Ten, but overall, just not really able to kind of close out. So I think, especially if Purdue is in the thick of things, or if they win this game, they win the Big Ten title, you're going to find a team that's really locked in and focused from the coaching staff. And I think they're going to take care of business in Evanston. So not out of the woods yet. Still got a couple of tough games to go. But, again, the gritty win against Indiana is something that, you really like to see with the character of your team. And I think we've seen it kind of just this team mature. There were a lot of close games down the stretch. Purdue lost at the beginning of the season. And, down the stretch, they've been able to, weather a storm against Michigan State where they came storming back, holding off Maryland, early, Ohio State, being able to beat Wisconsin in overtime on the road. having the grit to beat Penn State on the road when they've got you against the ropes and they're playing out of their minds. So just really strong, team mental toughness. And I really think Purdue has a really good shot, excuse me,
taking this home, but I think you really need a split with the Michigan teams because Michigan has the win over you and you split with Michigan State. So I don't know. I think if the record's the same, you still get the title, but obviously you want that outright. And Purdue kind of choked it away a little bit last year. So, look for them to make a strong run. And again, you hear it all the time in regards to Purdue basketball. Losing 4 starters, 1,500 points from your team, gone. You're returning arguably one of the best players in the country, but you just don't really know who's going to help them out. So really good credit to Matt Painter for getting this team just to the next level and coaching them up to where they can compete, and they do have a shot at the Big Ten title. So, Purdue basketball obviously is always good, and it'll be really fun to watch in March. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all of that kind of go down, so to speak, and what seed we have. I know we're slotted in, I think it's a 2 or 3 seed, but who knows? If we win the Big Ten and maybe make some noise in the Big Ten tournament, we could be a 1 seed. I don't know, but probably kind of tough to, beat out some of those ACC teams and SEC teams out there that are really kind of making noise nationally as they typically do. So, again, just something really looking forward to. Hoping to do, maybe a bracket challenge of some sort with our, our host site, Michigan Sports Entertainment. Certainly looking forward to continuing to work with them. Hopefully we'll have our stuff on their site here soon. But again, just bracket challenge, just having some fun with all of that. So without further ado, as I speed through this podcast, which is just crazy, been talking for 20 minutes. So I get, who knows, I might start babbling about a recruit and get us to an hour, but I don't know. Continuing the breakdown of the 2019 recruiting class for Purdue, we're going to be talking about defensive back Cameron Allen, defensive back Niles Beverly, and defensive end Suleiman Kapaka. And hopefully I said that right. So don't be mad if you ever, for whatever reason, listen to this podcast. So we'll dive right in here. Cameron Allen, this this guy, I think, could possibly be one of the most underrated recruits that Purdue has in this class. He led his team to a state title in Virginia, played quarterback and was a defensive back. He played corner. He will play corner at Purdue. First thing, the length, 6'1", 185, pretty good size for a corner. I would have loved to have had him early. I think he would have probably had a good shot to play if he came early, but he's a basketball star as well. So completely understandable with the last ride stuff there. But really what I loved about his film was a couple things really. Great instincts in coverage. Really does a good job of just kind of feeling where he's at and reading the quarterback in the zone coverage and making a play. He's a ball hawk. He's all over the field making plays. And I think Purdue really kind of misses out on that in their cornerback situation. You've never had that kind of just shut down athlete that's just all, around the ball all the time. I think his technique could be a little bit better. I think that's just kind of a product of, him being so athletic. There are reps where it does look good. He's got a good back pedal with his hips, being able to turn quickly, riding the outside hip of receivers, that kind of thing. When he's pressed up in man coverage, does a really good job of just, staying on the receiver, through their stem and being able to make the play on those out cuts or those curl routes, being able to break that up and making a play, downfield, intercepting the ball, does a really good job. I think playing quarterback really, gives him almost a leg up and a really good idea of a feel for the offense that he's playing against, because he understands, as a quarterback, what you need to look for in a defense to make the play. So another underrated skill I think that doesn't get talked about enough with cornerbacks is willingness to go up and make a tackle. Not afraid to throw his weight around, does a really good job of wrapping up and laying the hit stick on, a lot of these running backs that came at him. Really with cornerbacks, some of them get in there, some of them don't. Again, it's an underrated skill that I think needs to be more apparent with defensive backs, and he's not afraid to get right in there. So, both of these guys, Niles Beverly, kind of the same way, not afraid to stick his nose in there and make a play, in the run game. And I think that just really adds to their game. So for me, Cameron Allen has a really good shot when he comes in during the summer to compete for playing time. Again, I just think the way he understands the offense, he's going up against, what he's seeing in coverage, and his athleticism just gives him a leg up. And just being able to take the ball away is such a special trait. And it's surprising, to kind of say that, but it really is. And not a lot of guys are able to really finish plays. I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but in the Auburn game, when they were down, Purdue was down 7-0, there was an opportunity for a pick six and it was dropped. Not saying that would have changed the game, but being able to maybe slow down that Auburn offense with a shock play on defense like that may have been able to help you out. I don't know. So just a finisher on defense when, creating turnovers. Again, a name to look out for in the summer, in the fall. I think he's got a really good chance, especially with Purdue's depth at corner being a little shallow. Kenneth Major is probably going to be the guy. He had a pretty good season last year. But again, I really like Cameron Allen, and I think he's got a really good chance of making some noise and seeing some playing time for Purdue. So moving on to another cornerback prospect, Niles Beverly, 5'11", 180. He played some running back in high school, but he'll be a corner at Purdue again. So just seeing the running back film, he's got some pretty good quickness and speed. But what I really like with Niles Beverly, some of the underrated skills, so to speak, with these guys, being able to understand where you're at on the field and using the boundary to your advantage. I mean, I think, a lot of people don't do it. They just rely on their athleticism, but he does a great job of kind of leaning into the receiver while tracking the ball and basically kind of running them out of bounds so they can't make a play. If they go out of bounds, they're kind of done unless it's a tip drill or something. So I think it's something that you don't really see a lot of, but it's, an immensely good skill to have as a cornerback. Like Cameron Allen, really good ball instincts. I saw more deflections and interceptions, which is fine because he played a lot of press man and was able to really just stay on the outside shoulder, the outside hip, and those quick slants, those outs, those stops, where, you can kind of get in a little trouble as a cornerback. But he did a great job of riding the outside hip and just making a play on the ball to, force an incompletion. Again, another tough thing that I think Purdue defensive backs struggled with was just being in the right place at the right time, being able to just stay on their man. And, hopefully there's going to be some pass rush this year, so you have some coverage sacks. But Niles Beverly, an aggressive guy at the line of scrimmage, uses his body to keep people out, kind of using the boundary, but can go up and make a play and has the ball skills as an offensive player as well. Another guy that is not afraid to stick his nose in there and make a tackle. So really just we talk about the intangibles, the little things that not a lot of people have or do. Niles Beverly has that kind of thing, using the boundary and tackling and being able to, have the good footwork, in press man, not wasting a ton of motion with your feet, kind of taking a couple reads, waiting for the wide receiver to make his move, and then just going with them there. So that's just really good, in my opinion, to being able to translate that into the next level. A guy that, again, I think has a chance to make some noise because the depth issues at Purdue's cornerback spot. I think he can compete. I think he's got the athleticism. He's got the ball skills. He's got the know-how. I mean, again, I rave about the smallest things, but being able to use the boundary effectively without being penalized is such an immense trait to have, because when you're going up against speed, you might be beat a little bit off the line, but if you can recover and use your body to basically lean on the receiver while tracking the ball, you're going to force him out of bounds, and you're going to basically break up that pass before it even gets there. And I just think that's such an underrated skill that's not really talked about with cornerbacks. So, really, again, another guy I think to keep an eye on in the summer and the fall with Cameron Allen. I think they've got a chance. If they come in ready to work, they pick up the defense, and they show out against what really Purdue's wide receivers are immensely good, as far as freshmen are concerned. So if they can win some of those one-on-one battles against David Bell, against Milton Wright, against Mershawn Rice, against TJ Sheffield, even against Rondell Moore, if they can do something with him, I think that's going to open some eyes and give him a chance to play. So definitely something worth keeping an eye on and looking at with these two defensive backs. I'm pretty excited after looking at Cameron Allen's tape. I think he's got the best chance, to be honest. But Niles Beverly certainly has a really great opportunity ahead of him as well. So the fact that how good this class is really just blows me away. And it's not like I looked at other classes recruiting film. Maybe I would have had the same opinions. Who knows? But really looking forward to seeing these guys in the summer and the fall, and some of them in the spring. Definitely looking forward to seeing Karlaftis, Milton Wright, and some of the other early enrollees to see what they can do, because I think a lot of them have a really good shot of being able to get on the field early as young guys. So we'll transition into our last guy here. Looking at about a half-hour show, so. Finally, John, you're not here, and I do it. I do the short show for you. So we're looking at Suleiman Kapaka. Again, hopefully I'm saying that right. 6'3", 250, played weak side defensive end, and I think he was bumped into the middle of the field as well as a 3 technique, I would say. Not a whole lot of stuff that I could look at, but from what I was able to gather, one, I think he'll take a red shirt this year, even with Purdue's depth issues, unless he comes in just really more than what he was in high school. Maybe he has a shot at rotational play, but I think at 250, it's kind of like an in-between weight. And again, I think he's got the quickness and skill set to play inside at the 3, like we're seeing with Giovanni Revere, but I just don't know if he's quite ready for that yet. Had a good first step and played low, beneath his pads, which is great. Great couple things to have. I would have liked him to finish some plays. Maybe if there's any way to get him just a step quicker, working a little bit on that closing ability. There were plays where he would get through, but just a half a second too late, the quarterback would be able to get away from him. And not finishing. I mean, he was there. He would force the quarterback into another team, or he would, when the quarterback's fighting someone else off, he was able to basically come in and finish the play that he originally started. Really would love to see him just finish what he started. When he gets back there, finish the quarterback off. Don't let him away. Don't let him get away from you. Just end it right there. Does an okay job of pursuit on the backside. I think, again, just needs to be a little bit quicker on his movement, lateral movement, and working a little bit better on his angles. He's able to catch up to guys, but if he takes a little bit better angle, he doesn't have to chase them for 10 yards. He can tackle them, within 2 yards. So I think I love his measurables and I love his potential. I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good player at Purdue. It's just, he's got to get there, which I'm 100% certain that he can. Again, we kind of talk about, first step ability, first step quickness, being able to say he played, below his pad level, which is great because you see a lot of people stand up in high school because they're just so much better than everybody. But a guy that I think, again, redshirting, get in the weight room, work on your technique, get a little quicker, get a little stronger. And, next year, let's reevaluate. Let's see where you're at, because defensive line is still going to be a big issue for Purdue, kind of moving into the following year. So, again, I think a great prospect, great chance, great potential. Not a lot to break down other than the first step stuff, a little bit of strength issues, a little bit of finishing issues, but I like it. I like the motor. I like the potential here. Redshirt this year. Let's go play football in the next year. Really, with that being said, that is all I have for you guys here on the Solo Dolo edition of Voice of the Fan. I think, keep an eye out on Purdue basketball. We've got a good chance. Tune into that Michigan State game if you can. Big game, has a lot of ramifications for Purdue. And then obviously we got to keep taking care of business to have a shot. But other than that, we'll continue our series of breaking down the recruiting class. We'll have Dejuan Hewitt, I think I said that right, Cam Craig, and Dave Monat III. I know Dave is at Purdue early, and then we'll be followed up with Spencer Holstage, Krishan Long, and Brooks Cormier, the punter. And then we've got an additional Jacob Wahlberg and Chase Triplett, guys that I think Jacob is blue shirting or gray shirting, so he'll count to the 2020 class. And then I'm not sure about Chase Triplett, his situation. But so we've still got a little ways to go. And again, still really looking forward to breaking down some of these offensive linemen in this class. A lot of really good skill positions. But if you've heard me talk about linemen, maybe on the Michigan State episode, or when we've, I think we did Kyle Jornigan, and he might have been the only offensive lineman we broke down. But something I really love doing is breaking down their film, because they're such an important piece. So, be on the lookout for that. Those probably in a couple weeks. Those most of the offensive lineman guys. But as always, I'm Austin. Co-host John Emmons, who again is not here, so happy belated to you. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard tonight, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Voice of the Fan, and also give us a listen on SoundCloud. And if you could, like our page on Facebook at Voice of the Fan, and follow us on Twitter at Voice of the Fan PC. Thanks everyone.